Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we're diving into what is literally one of the most fascinating and frankly hilarious ironies of the digital age. It's the central irony of our hyper-connected world, the simple fact that trying to hide, censor, or suppress information almost always backfires spectacularly.
So, what actually happens when you try to erase something from the internet? I mean, it's a question PR teams and high-paid lawyers ask every single day, right? You might think you just get a clean slate, but, well, the reality is usually the exact opposite.
Enter the Streisand effect. It's defined as the unintended consequence where trying to hide, remove, or censor information instead massively increases public awareness of it. It's this wild quirk of human psychology. Think about it. When someone tells you that you absolutely aren't allowed to see something, it instantly becomes the only thing you want to see, right?
Part 1. Origins, a Malibu mansion.
To really get where this term comes from, we gotta travel back to 2003 with global megastar Barbra Streisand. Basically, she filed a whopping $50 million invasion of privacy lawsuit against a photographer named Kenneth Adelman and the California Coastal Records Project. Her intention? She just wanted to force the removal of an aerial photograph of her Malibu estate from a publicly available database. A database that, by the way, was actually just tracking coastal erosion. But the result? The exponential global exposure of the exact photograph she wanted buried.
And the data here is absolutely stunning. To put this into perspective, before the lawsuit was filed, this specific photo in the database, labeled Image 3850, had been downloaded exactly twice, literally, 2 times. But in the single month following the news of her legal action, the image surged to over 420,000 views. By trying to hide the photo, she basically bought a global billboard for it.
The escalation was just rapid. In 2003, Streisand files her massive lawsuit. By 2004, it's completely dismissed, and she's ordered to pay $177,000 in the photographer's legal fees. Ouch. Then, the very next year, tech writer Mike Masnick coined the Streisand effect on his blog, officially turning a legal blunder into a permanent piece of digital culture.
But look, this isn't just about celebrity real estate anymore. Let's look at the modern arena. We're going to see how controversial independent films have triggered the Streisand effect on a massive global scale, actually using censorship and negative publicity as a hyper-accelerant for their own success.
Case Study 1. Citizen Vigilante.
So, released in 2026 and directed by Uwe Boll, Citizen Vigilante stars Armie Hammer. But right out of the gate, the critical reception was incredibly hostile. I mean, Variety literally described it as a violent, incoherent, morally bankrupt slice of exploitation. The film was heavily criticized for perceived anti-immigrant messaging, and it sat at an abysmal 11% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Because of all this, the film faced intense suppression globally. It was outright banned in Germany by the FSK ratings board. It was labeled an orgy of fascism by some European critics. And prior to a certain major event, it was receiving almost no reviews from major publications. Now, normally, getting completely panned by critics combined with outright bans, well, that spells the absolute end for an independent movie.
But then came a dramatic pivot. Elon Musk took to X and heavily promoted the film, specifically framing the German ban as a free speech issue. And here is where the irony kicks in. The attempt to censor the movie ironically handed it the ultimate megaphone.
The outcome was just staggering. Despite that 11% critical rating and the international bans we just talked about, the immense awareness generated by the suppression controversy rocketed Citizen Vigilante directly into the top 10 lists on major video-on-demand streaming platforms like Apple and Amazon. No way, right? But it's true.
Case Study 2. Sound of Freedom.
Our second example is the 2023 Angel Studios thriller Sound of Freedom, starring Jim Caviezel. Much like our first case study, this film faced severe media backlash. The Guardian and other outlets criticized it heavily, with headlines suggesting it was a thriller that plays to the QAnon crowd. The film also faced deep pushback from actual anti-trafficking experts who contested its accuracy and the methods portrayed by the real-life organization it was based on. We're talking widespread negative publicity.
Now, what's really interesting here is the stunning financial disparity. The heavy negative media scrutiny did absolutely nothing to slow it down. Actually, scratch that. It actually energized its base. Against a pretty modest $14.5 million budget, Sound of Freedom achieved a historic worldwide box office of $251 million. That made it the 10th highest grossing film in the US for 2023. Suppression simply became free marketing.
Section 4. How to break the cycle.
So this all begs the question, if fighting back aggressively only makes things worse, how do you actually defend against a reputation threat? Well, it starts with psychology. A 2026 study by Yang and Clark, published in Evolution in Human Behavior, looked at over 3,000 participants, and they found that adopting a stoic or unemotional demeanor during conflict dramatically improves an individual's reputation. Yelling, crying, or reacting emotionally to an attack actually damages your reputation way more than the original attack itself.
According to a best practice guide from Solidus Law on handling adverse reputation, structure and discipline matter most in the first 24 to 72 hours of a crisis. Step 1 is simple. Pause. Do not respond emotionally within the first hour. Just don't do it. Step 2 is to assess the threat objectively. You've got to separate what the situation actually is from how it's making you feel.
Breaking down that first step further, the immediate actions are honestly deeply counterintuitive. You literally need to step away from the keyboard entirely. Instruct your team to say absolutely nothing to the public or the media, and this is absolutely crucial. Do not delete, edit, or hide content from your own accounts. Deleting content instantly looks like concealment, and, as we've learned today, that is the exact trigger for the Streisand effect.
This leads us to the ultimate takeaway from Solidus Law regarding digital crises. Listen to this. The goal of the first hour of a crisis is not to respond. It is to not make it worse. By doing nothing, you effectively starve the fire of the oxygen it needs to spread.
So, I want to leave you with a thought. Next time you are tempted to aggressively hide, censor, or delete a problem online, ask yourself, are you actually solving the issue, or are you just buying a global billboard for it? Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer today. And remember, sometimes the absolute best way to make something disappear is to leave it right where it is.